All right, breaking news just reaching us says that the NLC has suspended the strike for 1 week. Breaking news just reaching us again says that the nationwide strike has been suspended and the organized labor has decided to suspend the action for 1 week. All right, we have our correspondent, Bernard Akede in Lagos, joining us to tell us what the people have to say as regards the call-off of the NLC strike. Hello, Bernard. Please go ahead and give us an update. Are they celebrating or are they not happy that the strike has been called off?
All right, Dashan, what you see behind me now is, like an association of aviation union workers. They pretty much are gyrating in their own lingua about the suspension of the strike, 1 month suspension, and that's because unionists are in talks with the federal government. Now, they say they are optimistic that their talks will yield positive responses, but within the time frame while these talks are ongoing, they are suspending the strike for 1 week. It's a suspension, it's not called off. So if that 1 week, if within that 1 week, their conversations are not favorable, then it's possible that the strike would resume again. But they say they are hopeful and they're optimistic that this strike will not resume, that from suspension, eventually it will be called off. Now, we saw the MM2 gate being thrown open, and then passengers who were supposed to fly roll their luggage into the airport, and there was a lot of celebration after the announcement that the strike had been suspended for 1 week. We're in front of MM1 gate, and about the same thing is most likely going to happen here. The gate will be thrown open eventually after the announcement about the suspension of the strike for 1 week. We're waiting to hear from the unionists or union officials or representatives. I think that's the announcement that's about to happen. So I'll throw the mic in there so that you can hear.
Bring your mic so that I can move back.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes.
Fellow comrades, fellow comrades, we want to thank you all. First, I want to thank all the affiliates, both the public and private sectors, that supported this industrial action. It has not been easy. Over a long time, people are thinking that labor is a toothless bulldog. The government has pushed us to the wall that we have to move back and, if possible, move front. So I want to thank you all. It has not ended yet. The government, since the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Grand Commander, in the person of His Excellency, Ahmed Tinubu, he said he is interested in workers' affairs and he will pass what his people are at the moment, which is 60,000. We have looked at this. He's a father of the nation. We will not undermine his statements. Based on that, the union has gone back and said, let us come back and see what happened. And the interesting thing is they have given us 1 week within the government and the tripartite meeting. We have 1 week to come out with what will look like minimum wage for an average worker. So based on that, we are now suspending this strike.
Relaxing.
Whether you call it relax, suspension, everything, we are all the same thing. It's not call off. You can use any English you want to use. But I want to thank all affiliates. I also want to appeal to the passengers, because this is our own industry. All passengers that either by error or omission you miss your flight since yesterday till today, we want to appeal to you and say it is not our making. The fight we are fighting is fight for all of us. It will also get across to you. In the course of this fight, it will surprise you that somewhere, somehow, your flight ticket may come down. So support us. It's not because we are doing it, we are not gaining anything. It's just to make sure that things work well. Once again, we want to thank the security agents that have been supporting us. Since yesterday we started this strike, we have not heard that they should go anywhere. We want to thank you all for your cooperation. We also want to thank all the pressmen. You have given us maximum support by telling the whole world what was happening in Nigeria and how far we are handling it. I think the labor has gotten to a stage of maturity.
Yes,
if it were in those days, by now we should be throwing bottles. But for now, the labor has gotten to a level that we can say, yes, we have a reasonable, understandable, responsible union that we can deal with. So we also expect the government to also give us reasonable, responsible people that we can deal with. We all are Nigerians. If they come to a stage where we feel that, yes, we can manage, we can take it off from there. But what we don't want is for us to be shortchanged for any reason. This morning I was in Channels Television. I asked a question. When it is time to buy SUV for the National Assembly and whatever, how long does it take them to sign it? And it come to pass. So why is it that if you come to an ordinary man on the street, it becomes a thing to discuss and take all long? This committee was set up on 30th of January, 6 months thereabout. If the government has done what they're supposed to do, we shouldn't have been here. Yes. So we are expecting the government to be a bit reasonable. Apologies, not to insult anybody. I want them to be reasonable and responsible so that when they tell us A, let their A be their A. We don't want to come back to these trenches. It's not good for us. It's not good for Nigeria. It's not good for our industry. This is a peculiar industry. Now we have some people that are supposed to move from one portion A to portion B for treatment, and it seems that union has stopped them not to travel. It's not right. It's not right. Please, I want to appeal to the government. I want to appeal to all the people that are concerned. Let us move forward. And we believe that the union, what we believe is forward ever and backward never. So I want to thank you all for the support you have given to us, and I assure you that going forward, as long as government is going to be responsible and reasonable, we'll work with you. Once again, security agencies will thank you. Press will thank you. Please, this strike action is being relaxed. Yes. Whatever language you want to call it. But in the next one, it is expected that we should come out with something reasonable. At this juncture, we said all our gates we close in aviation industry is open. We open it in the name of the Father, we open it in the name of the Son, and we open it in the name of the Holy Spirit. Solidarity! 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 Forward ever! Solidarity forever!
Dashan, so you have it. As you're looking now, the gates are being thrown open and we all now have access into the airport premises. This has been shut for the past 2 days, but now, as you see, I'm making my way into the airport like every other person, passengers and workers alike. It is not, again, like they said, it has not been called off, it has just been suspended, or some have said it has been relaxed for the next 1 week. If within this 1 week, the agreed measures are not met, union and the government are unable to come to an agreement, then, well, nobody knows what exactly will happen. But they are optimistic, they are hopeful that within the next week, that's within this 1 week, the gates of the airport, I beg your pardon, will be open, and that's because they believe that the government and the unions would have come to a desirable agreement.
Also all hopeful, that in that 1 week or before the 1 week elapses, that the union and the government will definitely come to an agreement as to the amount that they intend to pay civil servants. And this is actually also good news for passengers who have actually missed their flights and, have one place to go to, and another. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that, the gates have been opened. Thank you so much, Bernard, for speaking to us and updating us on that. Thank you. All right, we also have our correspondent in Abuja, Emmanuel Bagudu, standing by to give us an update, as regards the suspension of the NLC strike for 1 week. Hello, Emmanuel. Thank you for joining us at this time.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. All right, so go ahead and tell us what the air is like in the Federal Capital Territory, after the announcement of the suspension.
Yes, the suspension the announcement just came in now, and we can see vehicles already moving. We had a visit to one of the secondary schools where they are writing the WAEC, the SSC. So we met the principal, teachers are already showing up. talking about the government secondary school who says it's on 3. So immediately the announcement has been made, this principal, started calling teachers to come around to look at the students writing exams.
All right, Emmanuel, well, this week actually started on a very low note, talking about the strike. And, I think a lot of people would actually be lazy to go back to work. Considering that tomorrow is a Wednesday, do you have an idea if people would, jump up at the opportunity to go to work, or will this week just be rendered, a quiet one, pending when the government and the union come to a conclusion?
Yes, since last night, I think a lot of people were gearing up to resume work today, because a lot of people just suspected the strike would call off today, because the news broke out last night that, of course, there was a good resolution. Then something good came out of the meeting. So people were on standby, actually, to wait for this announcement. So it's expected that tomorrow people are going to turn up to work, because as at this morning, a lot of people suspected that the strike is going to come to an end.
All right, thank you so much, Emmanuel Bagudu. If you can hear me, yeah, thank you so much for giving us that update. We'll take a quick break now, but when we come back to discuss further on this, we have a labor expert, Ireolua Oguntuashe, via Zoom, and also in the studio we also have a public affairs commentator, Jide Johnson, waiting or standing by to discuss more on this. Stay tuned. All right, welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. You're still watching News Central now. Now, to discuss further on the suspension of the labor union strike, we have in the studio Jide Johnson, a public affairs commentator. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Pleasure to be with you, and good day to our viewers all over the world. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. All right, so we'd love to hear your thoughts on, the strike generally and what you feel about the suspension for 1 week.
Well, I think that in recent time, there has never been any strike that has had this type of impact that it had on the socio-political, economic life of Nigerians, because everything was at a standstill. For most Nigerians, they didn't have access to power. Those that want to travel didn't have the opportunity of traveling because the aviation sector also joined in this particular strike. And a strong signal was sent by Labour, which we have never had from Labour for a very, very long time. And you could see the prompt response of the government in trying to address that particular problem. You saw that initially the Minister of Information and the Special Advisor to the President give a press conference, and then before you know it, a meeting was called for later in the evening. So it tells you that that the strike had its impact on the government, and government responded quickly by inviting them for a meeting, which has led to the breaking news which we had as we got into the studio with the suspension, or looking at nomenclature, the labor leaders, whether it's suspension, whether it's release, but at least the strike is not called off. It has been relaxed.
A lot of people would actually beg to differ. You said the strike actually, sent a strong signal to the leaders. The common man seemed to have suffered more, because when it comes to, light, most of the common man, or those who are, that's the civil servants themselves, barely have access to light in the first place, and also generators. And then not forgetting that the oil marketers also, went on strike, so it was difficult for them to even get fuel to buy for their generators. Meanwhile, when it comes to the leaders, they actually have access to, all these things readily. So would you say it really affected or it made an impact on our leaders or the common man more?
It made more impact on the leaders, because it's not good for their optics. It's not good for their image. You can't be a leader if you're a leader of let's say you are the MD of a company, and then your workers stage a walkout. It has left an indelible mark. When they are writing the history of this administration, it's on record that the strike was called at a particular point in time. So whether you like it or not, no pain, no gain. There are sacrifices that has to be made on the part of the citizenry and on the part of the mass for them to get whatever deliverables they want to get from the government. And I'm sure, why did you think that government responded quickly? Why did you think that government keeps issuing statement? Every time Labour comes out with one statement, government responded quickly. You recall when Labour said where they had in the meeting is under siege, and quickly the Ministry of Defense quickly issued and explain when was the last time you had agencies of government responding promptly to issues of labor. So there's no doubt that the mass will feel it more. But the reality of the matter is that there's a particular saying in my local dialect. When a rooster lands on a line where we put cloth, it is not easy for the rooster, it's not easy for the line. So it's not easy for both parties, but it's the sacrifices that must be made for us to get a living wage for an average worker. Because if you break it down, there's no doubt, like the chairman of the aviation in Lagos said, when it comes to passing laws or making bills, for example, look at the speed of light with which the national anthem bill was passed.
Yeah.
Look at the speed of light with which appropriation was made for the purchases of cars and whatever.
Revamping of houses.
Revamping of houses, renovation of the offices of the National Assembly members and members of the Federal Executive Council. And look at how government has been foot dragging with respect to what they should pay labor since January.
Yes, that's actually my next question. Why do you think the government is still stalling as regards the amount to be paid workers? Because, you know, what we heard from them is that they would pay more than 60,000 naira, but they've still not come to a conclusion as to the exact amount that they're willing to pay civil servants. And in your opinion, what amount is okay as a living wage for workers?
For me, I think it's more between 120 and 150,000. That's been my view, within 150 and 20,000. National population policy on a family is a family of four, a family of 6, 4 children. The 1988 policy, 4 children and the parents, that's 6. Now, if you divide 120 by 6 across 30 months, what does it amount to? And then if you factor in how many liters of fuel are you going to buy in 120,000. So basically, when labor is saying that 60,000 is not sufficient, if you have a family of 6 in 60,000, 60,000 divided by 30 days will give you what? 2,000 per day. Now, can an average person spend 2,000 per day? Now, not to talk of a family of 6, taking out transportation and other utility bills and the rest of it. So for us, for government to actually be showing the intention that actually they want to pay the workers a living wage, then considering the purchasing power of Naira, I think between 120 to 150,000 would be the most appropriate minimum wage.
All right, that was Jide Johnson. Now we also have joining us via Zoom, Ire Oluwa Oguntuashe. He's the labor law expert. Thank you so much for joining us at this time. Ire Oluwa, can you hear me? It's a pleasure. All right, so go ahead.
I can hear you.
All right, go ahead and speak to us on the suspension of the strike and why you think the government is actually foot dragging, you know, on the amounts to pay workers.
You know, I think this is a big subject matter of negotiation. And again, we need to consider the fact that the issue of minimum wage is a 5-year tenure. And when I say 5-year tenure, by the provision of the Minimum Wage Act, so what I mean is that once we have once government and labor, once they've agreed to a particular minimum wage now, it's going to take another 5 years, you know, for there to be a review of the minimum wage. And the increase in salary within this period of time will mostly be a subject matter of discretion. So I think going by the length of time, that's one of the reasons, you know, it may have taken long to have this particular agreement. And I think another reason we need to also consider is that apart from the federal government, several other important interests are also involved. I'm talking of the interest of the organized private sector and also interest of the state government. So these are the things the federal government are also looking at, you know, in agreeing on the minimum wage. But again, if we look at the amount to be agreed on specifically, you know, we can say that the 60,000 that the federal government has proposed is totally unacceptable. I would definitely agree with that. And as such, I'm really happy with the agreement that federal government entered with labor with respect to the fact that, you know, there is nothing called 60,000 again. Any amount that will be agreed will be more than the 60,000, you know, that was previously agreed on. So I think it's the right step in the right direction. Conversations and negotiations are still ongoing, and I hope parties will be able to come to an amicable resolution. All
right, you know, before I go ahead and ask you the question. Now, there's been no definite amount yet, and they said over 60,000 naira. And a colleague of mine earlier said over 60,000 naira could mean 61,000 naira. Now we have our guest here, Jide, who actually said that he believes 120 to 150,000 naira would be, a fair amount to pay workers. But so many people, especially the federal government, seem to believe that, an increase that high would cripple the economy. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that is that I wouldn't want to subscribe to the fact that an increase that high, will cripple the economy. And why am I saying this? There has been increase in the wages of some particular sections of people. The national and the parliamentarians or the national legislature, they bought Prado jeeps for themselves, and they had also had their salaries increased. So the question would now be, shouldn't the general employees that are really feeling the brunt, should their salary not be increased, particularly given the fact that the provisions of the minimum wage act, as at present, has given room for the increase in the minimum wage on one hand. On the other hand, if you look at the rate of inflation, if you look at food inflation, if you look at the rate to assess health, if you look at some other things that are involved, electricity tariff hike, I think it is very necessary and expedient for the minimum wage to be increased. So people that are saying that 120,000, 150,000 will cripple the economy, for me, I don't really subscribe to that. And the reason I don't really subscribe to it is that if we look at the amount, the basic amenities that every human being should buy or would need, food, clothing, housing, health, if you look at those things and we now place it within the context of the proposed 120 and 150, I will now place it within the context of that, even within that 120 and 150,000 minimum wage, there are some dependent population that would also spend out of it. So can we now say that that minimum wage will be enough? For me, I don't think so. So I think it's still a subject matter of negotiation. It's a calculation that needs to be done very well. People saying that the lowest cadre collecting 120 will cripple the economy. They should also understand that the lowest cadre of workers are also citizens of Nigeria. The lowest cadre of workers are also feeling the economic brunt. And hence, the lowest cadre of workers in Nigeria are also affected, by the negative economy. Hence, their salary needs to be increased. But the subject matter, the increase, is a real subject matter of negotiation. I will subscribe for now to over 120,000. But another thing I would like to say is that the timeline for the review of the minimum wage by the minimum wage that also appears too long, 5 years. If you look at the last time that the minimum wage has been increased, 2019, how much was the price of bag of rice then? How much can you assess health then? We'll see that is actually extremely low if you consider the percentage difference to what we have now. So for we to have another 5 years, for us to have another increase or another review of minimum wage, will it really be appropriate given the volatility of the Nigerian economy and the speculated inflationary rate that can happen within that period of time? I think these are the things that should also be put into consideration.
All right, let's come back to you, Jide. Now, majority of Nigerians are actually happy about, how things have actually played out during the strike up until now. Now, would you say that even after 1 week, if the federal government and the labor unions fail to come to a conclusion about the amount, that, this industrial action would have been justified somehow?
Well, I'm sure that they will come to an agreement because one, there is the wave of public opinion is on the side of labor. In the past, it used to be on the side of the government. That's why you see that strike that has been called, except this last one, in the last 1 year, has not been successful. It has to be called off dime minute, and government felt the wave of public opinion was on their side. And it's the battle of public opinion now, and the opinion seems to be on the side of labor. So I think that government, in its wisdom and in its sincerity, will agree. We have an agreement with labor in order to resolve this particular matter. Like Riolua said, when it was time to increase the wages of judicial workers, of the judges, did we go through this? In the last 1 year, the wages of Supreme Court justices, High Court judges, people work have been increased without much ado about nothing. Why should it be that of the workers and what the workers are asking? And I like one illustration which he gave. What was the value of a bag of rice in 2019 when the last increment was done compared to what it is now, if hiking electricity tariff, if removing petroleum subsidy, if removing educational subsidy did not cripple the economy, why is it that what you are going to give the worker is going to cripple them? So,
all right. So just before we move to Irolua, now can you share your thoughts on, what the Attorney General of the Federation said about the strike, deeming it as immature and illegal?
Well, the Attorney General is speaking as Minister of Justice, not as Attorney General, because he's an appointee of the President. He reports to the President, and he has to justify the reason why he's appointed into office. You'll recall, like Irolua said, he's saying it's illegal. Thank God we had a lawyer who has given a legal perspective to it. Now, the law says that every 5 years. So if you talk 2019 to date, that it ought to have been reviewed. And so it's within even the purview of the law. Probably he did not study the law, and he got a brief from one of his lawyers that didn't probably study the law to give him that particular brief, because there's nothing illegal. It's within the fundamental rights of every worker to ask and make a demand for what should be their rights, what should be their living wages. And if he's talking about, I think I heard him talking about the time limit, the provisions of them giving them notices when it's about to come to. You should not forget that this issue of this minimum wage did not start with this particular administration. It started with Buhari administration. And in government does not exist in vacuum. If you take over from the previous government, it is still the same government. It's a continuum. So basically, there's no illegality concerning that. Labour has been negotiating over this particular matter, and a committee was set up in January. So if Labour is going to strike now, it's nothing illegal. It's what he has said that is illegal.
All right, let's go back to Irolua. Now let's have your thoughts on the same question. The Attorney General of the Federation is saying that the industrial action is immature and illegal.
Okay, we need to understand the basis upon which the Attorney General of the Federation is coming from. Coincidentally, the Attorney General of the Federation is a learned senior, someone I respect so much. So I will just speak based on my own opinion, and given the fact that everybody is also entitled to use their own opinion. Now, the base upon which Attorney General of the Federation made that statement is on the premise of Section 41 and 42 of the Trade Dispute Act, that says that if an employee that is within the essential services wants to go on strike, they must give 15 days notice. Now, the question is that all the categories of employees that have gone on strike, based on the fact that the NLC, has requested the affiliate unions to go on strike, the question is, are they categorized as essential services under the Trade Dispute Act? That question is answered in the first schedule of the Trade Dispute Act, that states that essential services, workers in the essential services can be workers within the health sector, workers within the electricity sector, workers within the dock or shipping sector, and other categories of worker. Now, I want to say something. For all the people that have gone on strike, they extend beyond the categories of essential services that is stated within the Trade Dispute Act. Hence, the necessity to give the 15 days notice as applicable to workers within the essential services may not be applicable here, because all the categories of employees that have gone on strike transcends beyond workers within the essential services. All workers, that's number one. Number two, the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister for Justice also made allusion to a particular injunction that was obtained in 2023. Right. To the best of my knowledge, this issue actually happens in 2024, and I don't think that an injunction has been obtained or granted by the court, National Industrial Court, stipulating or restraining the Nigerian Labour Congress from going on strike. If I may complete my thought. Now, another thing is the Attorney General of the Federation.
Please, can you do that quickly? Yeah.
Yes, the Attorney General of the Federation unilaterally declaring the strike illegal. It is only the court, in line with Section 6 and Section 287 that have of the 1999 Constitution as amended, that have the right to do something like this. So I think the position of the Attorney General is a subject matter of his opinion, and I don't think that he holds sway, in this case, except it is coming from a court of competent jurisdiction.
All right, well, thank you so much, Irolua and Jide, for joining us on the news today and speaking to us on this. We appreciate you for your time.
Thank you for having us.
All right, with that, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, the news continues. Stay with us. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now to security matters. Following the timely intervention of Abia State Governor Alex Oti in the killing of 5 soldiers in Aba, calm has returned to the city. The army headquarters had threatened a reprisal in Aba due to the murder of their officers on May 30th. News Central's Chinwe Ugele reports that the governor offered some welfare packages to the families of the slain soldiers.
They were soldiers who had gone to their duty posts on that fateful day. They were shot dead and have now left their wives as widows and children fatherless suddenly. Governor Alex Oti, while visiting the 144 Battalion of the Nigerian Army Asa Okwa West local government area of Abia State to condole with the formation and widows of the slain soldiers, pledges sponsorship of the children of the deceased up to university level and assures that the perpetrators of the murder will be uncovered.
I'm not going to leave you alone. We know that the military high command would also look after you. But because your husbands died here in Abia, we have adopted you as daughters of Abia, and your children as children of Abia. To me, that we will smoke out whoever is remotely connected to this killing. Wherever they are, wherever they run to, we are going to work like we have always done, very closely with the security agencies.
The people have commended the governor for wading in and saving the situation.
Government should intervene because you cannot watch your brother being killed just for nothing's sake. And what they are doing there is cannot remedy our problem. Let us call a spade a spade. You can't be killing innocent people in the name of what you are looking for.
Imagine if the soldiers were allowed to rampage Aba, how many people could have died? So the Abians should be grateful. We have somebody like Dr. Oti.
Brigade Commander 14th Brigade Ohafia Brigadier General Olushola Diya said the army will not relent until those directly or indirectly involved in the killing of the soldiers are found.
We are gathering as much intelligence as we can to ensure that all those involved in this act will be brought to book. We will retaliate.
Although economic and other social activities have returned to the Enyimba city, the people still live in palpable fear of the unknown. In Aba for News Central, Chinwe Ugele.
Thank you, Chinwe. Now, amid threats posed by the Islamic State of West Africa Province terrorist group in Baga town, the Borno State Governor, Professor Babagana Zulum, has taken decisive action by convening a high-level security meeting in the town. The governor, accompanied by top military officials, spearheaded discussions aimed at formulating effective strategies to prevent attacks and protect vulnerable communities. News Central's Umari Kirawa reports on the unfolding development in the fish-producing Baga town.
The recent targeting of the town of Baga in Kukawa local government area of Borno State by insurgents, Governor Babagana Zulum underscored the urgent need for proactive measures to safeguard residents and prevent further displacement. Emphasizing the importance of preemptive action, the governor urged collaboration between security forces and local authorities to strengthen defenses and thwart potential threats.
Displacement has not taken place in Borno State for the last 4 years, and under no circumstances we shall allow Boko Haram to displace our communities again. So I'm here to discuss the matter with the Nigerian army and then see how possible best we can abort such situation that did not reoccur for the last 4 years. Yes, their strength are very weak, but they just want to, get cheap popularity. But I believe we have enough strength here in Baga and in Cross in order to address the issue of Kukawa.
In addition to bolstering security measures, Governor Babagana Zulum emphasized the critical role of community resilience in countering ISWAP's propaganda.
Zuwan shi mun yi murna kuma tsaro alhamdulillah har gwamna ya mana alƙawarin zai bude mana hanyar Chadi in ya bude mana hanyar Chadi komai zai yi kiliya insha Allah Allah kuma ya taimake mu.
Recognizing the psychological warfare waged by insurgents, the governor called for concerted efforts to empower communities with the necessary tools and information to resist extremist ideologies. The governor had an interactive sessions with farmers where plans are set to further boost farming activities in the area.
We are willing to resuscitate the South Chad irrigation scheme in Baga, but most importantly, we are here also to support the community. And I have directed that the farmers will be profiled so that they should be given agricultural input. We shall support them through the World Bank supported program, which is AgriSal and NG Cares, in addition to what we have.
The governor assured the communities of the government's support and commitment to protecting lives and property amidst the ongoing security concerns. In Baga for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The news returns after the break. Do you stay? Thank you for staying. Now in business, data from the Central Bank of Nigeria shows that during the course of a 10-week period, Nigeria's foreign exchange reserves decreased by $1.8 billion. The nation's foreign exchange reserves as of May 29, 2024 were $32.69, that's billion dollars, down from $34.44 billion as of March 18th, which is less than the $36.1 billion that was recorded in May 2023. Since February 2024, the reserves have decreased by a total of $3.4 billion, showing a consistent downward trend. A number of variables, including debt repayment, a significant drop in oil exports, less foreign investment, and higher imports, are cited by experts as the causes of this downturn. The Naira has been declining due to the decrease of foreign exchange reserves since the start of 2024. The Naira has lost over 100% of its value versus the US dollar. May saw signs of improvement in Egypt's non-oil private sector, indicating a potential easing of the slump experienced in previous months. Now, the S&P Global Purchasing Managers Index for Egypt rose to 49.6 in May, up from 47.4 in April, although it remained below the 50 threshold, indicating contraction. The survey revealed a mixed picture, with manufacturing and wholesale and retail sectors still experiencing declines, while services and construction showed improvement. Now, business sentiment also improved for the second consecutive month, reflecting growing hopes of economic conditions strengthening. This positive outlook led to increased staffing numbers and a slower decline in input purchases. However, the recovery remains uneven, with industries like manufacturing and wholesale and retail still facing challenges. Reports from the camp of the Super Eagles indicate that they will only train on Tuesday evening, and it is going to be a closed session as preparations for Friday's 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying match against South Africa's Bafana Bafana swing into new gear. However, there will be a media parlay on Wednesday at the team's hotel. A total of 15 players trained on Monday in Uyo, with head coach Finidi George telling the players afterwards that the 3 points at stake in Friday's encounter must end up in Nigeria's kitty. The delegation of Bafana Bafana is expected to arrive in Nigeria on Wednesday, with the team already booked into 4 points by Sheraton Hotel in Ikot Ekpene. Still talking sports, the Bafana Bafana of South Africa will arrive Uyo on Wednesday ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifying tie against Nigeria. 23 players, backroom staff and officials of the South African Football Association, SAFA, will make the trip. The delegation will travel to Nigeria via a chartered aircraft. The team will be lodged at 4 Points Hotel by Sheraton, Ikot Ekpene as well. Now, head coach Hugo Bruce made an adjustment to his squad on Monday following Grant Kekana's injury. Kaizer Chiefs defender Given Simango has been called up as his replacement. India coach Rahul Dravid is to stand down when his contract expires after the T20 World Cup. Former batter Dravid says he will not reapply for the position after it was re-advertised by governing body the BCCI last month. The 51-year-old succeeded Ravi Shastri in 2021 and led India to the World Test champion and 50 over World Cup finals last year, losing to Australia on both occasions. As well as those two defeats by Australia, Dravid oversaw a run to the semi-finals of the 2022 T20 World Cup, where India were beaten by eventual winners England. They have not won any global tournament since the 2013 Champions Trophy. Now, India face Ireland in their T20 World Cup opener in New York on Wednesday as they attempt to win the tournament for the first time since its inaugural edition in 2007. And that's all at this hour. Don't forget to follow us on social media handle. It's at News Central TV. Send your eyewitness report as well to the WhatsApp number on the screen. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, StarTimes channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Darshan Usman.